The road to new all-time highs for Bitcoin will be paved through many heartbreaks and many moments of euphoria. In today's video, I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions as to what I think 2024 is going to hold and has in store for Bitcoin. Buckle in, guys, and let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another walk and talk video, and I'm just grabbing the camera, getting away from the desk and trying to talk about cryptocurrency in a raw, uncut way. So from time to time I might be out of breath as I try to get some exercise here, and I'm just going to share my thoughts and opinions in crypto as it is, right? It's going to be uncut and you're just going to have raw footage here as to kind of my thoughts and opinions on what's going on. And today we are, of course, going to be discussing Bitcoin. Bitcoin in the light of bullish kind of eyes, or through a bullish lens, with the idea of trying to explain how we kind of get into new all-time highs for BTC, because that path in itself isn't going to be smooth sailing, in my opinion. I think we're going to actually see a lot of volatility, and it's going to be a very emotional year. I kind of spoke about this at the latter part of 2023, where ultimately my thoughts and opinions are that we're going to see a very emotional marketplace full of retail investors. In 2023, we saw a lot of accumulation, lots of FOMO, lots of hype around kind of Bitcoin spot ETFs, and rightfully so. They're very, very bullish things, but you do have to kind of give them a little bit of time, right? And what we saw in 2023 were a lot of retail investors kind of FOMOing into Bitcoin, right? We saw this within the wallet data, and I know that I don't talk about this all that often on the YouTube channel, as much as I used to, and this is because we actually offer it as a service within our membership platform now, 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗧, link is in the description below, where you can actually access that data and access my charts directly there, right? So if you're looking for kind of wallet counts, or you're looking for on-chain analysis, you find it on our website, right? And so I did talk to about it from time to time on the YouTube videos. But ultimately, if you're looking for keeping your finger on the pulse of what the Bitcoin whales are doing, then become a member. The link is in the description below. Now, what we saw in 2023 was a lot of retail investors buying up Bitcoin, right? And obviously, like any other cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and other assets, other digital assets, they typically have a finite amount of supply, right? And not all, of course. There are some that have an infinite number that can be minted, right? But in the case of Bitcoin, 21 million, that's the only amount of Bitcoin that will ever exist, right? And it's a very important number from the tokenomics side of things. We know that over 19.6 million BTC is already out there in circulation. Now, when we saw large accumulation happening at the retail side, as in wallets that had over 10% of a Bitcoin were growing exponentially during 2023, we also saw that the Bitcoin had to come from somewhere, right? It doesn't just materialize out of nowhere. They can't buy something if there isn't someone else selling it to them, right? And so for retail investors to accumulate the way that they did, they had to be buying it from someone or some entities. And well, we did see in 2023 a large shift with the amount of institutional level investment going into Bitcoin. In fact, they were selling to the retail investors. And so obviously during this moment in 2023, we were quite keen advocates for saying, look, retail is buying, whales are selling. What side of the argument do you think is right? Do you believe that the whales are on the right side of this, or do you think the retail are? Now, I'm still of the opinion that retail, unfortunately, probably isn't going to fare so well in the longer term. Now, at the moment, retail investors are looking pretty solid. They've kind of accumulated, and we did see price move up to 48K. That's a pretty key level for Bitcoin, right? And that move for Bitcoin up to $48,000 actually means a lot of retail investors are in profit, at least at the moment. Those profits are likely to kind of get wiped out and taken off the table in the coming kind of weeks and months, as we kind of see Bitcoin's price move back down a little bit. Now, this is just a part and part of the process of trading. Nothing moves in straight lines. You don't go straight up and you don't go straight down. And so when we talk about new all-time highs, we have to first appreciate where the Bitcoin is currently being held and what they typically, or those particular holders, what they typically kind of act in these environments. Now, retail investors usually overreact to things. They overreact with hype and they overreact with fear. This basically is an indication that as Bitcoin's price starts to cool off a little bit, as we have seen most recently tapping down at $38,500, retail investors were selling. And most recently we've seen a little bit, I think it's 2.33% in the last 7 days, larger institutional level whale investors have been buying. Okay, so we do know that retail have sold and whales have bought, right? But it's just the start of something much bigger. So do we see new all-time highs in the immediate future? And well, I've kind of been an advocate for talking about this for quite some time, that yes, I do think 2024 has a strong possibility of retesting the existing high later in the year, of course, and potentially moving up into new all-time highs. But before we see those things, we have to see and we have to appreciate what's happening in the real world. Okay, we do have a few things of concern when it comes to the price action of digital assets, specifically risk-on assets. And I'll talk more about this probably in another video, but we cannot ignore those macroeconomic events that could create a seismic shift from a more bullish environment that we have seen, during 2023 into a bearish one in 2024. The good news, at least in my opinion, is that a bearish move for Bitcoin, I think, will be limited to the start of 2024. Okay, I would expect us to kind of see a bit of a bearish quarter in kind of Q1, possibly Q2, if it does try and drag out a little bit. And that actually will be a really bullish setup for Bitcoin to then skyrocket with significant momentum back to the upside. Now, the Bitcoin spot ETFs are a pretty key component. These will, in my opinion, limit the damage that could be done through some of the other macroeconomic events, such as Fed interest rates and things like that. That basically, and what I mean by this, is that the Bitcoin spot ETFs that are accumulating Bitcoin will be a bit of a saving grace for preventing a complete freefall and to the downside. As said many times before, retail investors hold a significant amount of BTC, and they haven't really been actively selling just yet, and they've been holding quite well. I do question how long they will continue to hold as the economic climate potentially tightens up around them. I do expect some retail investors, around 30% of them in fact, to potentially succumb to selling pressure. This would equate to around 3 million BTC entering the marketplace looking to be sold and would fuel a significant surge to the downside. But as I said, all of this I think will be limited to the first couple of quarters. And the quarter 3 and quarter 4 could be a retest of the existing high and potentially breaking up into new all-time highs. Now, when we talk about new all-time highs for Bitcoin, we could be talking way above $100,000. We absolutely could. There's lots of price predictions out there saying 100K, 200K, 300K, right? And if we kind of draw a trend line across all of the previous peaks of the bullish markets, we can see, somewhere or landing somewhere approximately between $120,000 and $170,000 being a pretty probable area for Bitcoin to launch up to. This kind of return on investment will be significant, but it's not going to be game changing. There's going to be less percentage gains in this bullish market than we had seen in the previous multiple cycles for Bitcoin. This will be the weakest bullish market, even though the numbers are quite significant. And again, this is just the diminishing gains that we see over time. And of course, the Bitcoin spot ETFs will make and see Bitcoin become less volatile over time as well. So all in all, I'm incredibly bullish on Bitcoin and the crypto market over the next kind of, 12 to 18 months or so. And I do think we're going to see some fantastic gains in Bitcoin and of course in the altcoins market as well. Do watch out for some videos that I will be putting together over the next kind of few days or weeks, where I talk about some of those economic macro events that could fuel a bit of a move to the downside. But in this video, I wanted to be really positive about the future of Bitcoin and the future of cryptocurrencies, because I do think the future is incredibly bright, and most investors who are able to hold out could become very, very wealthy in 2024. If you're looking for some more up-to-date technical analysis on BTC, then I urge you guys to check this video out right here, where I discuss what is going on in the 1 hour, 1 day, and 1 week's timeframes for BTC.